Well, thank you everyone for coming and joining us for our second webinar / seminar, senior seminar. And today we're going to talk, Steve and I are going to talk about the college admissions process.
Yep. So if you guys met with us last week, you know we went over all the options that you do have. Today we're just going to be talking about if you do decide that you want to go to college, whether it be a 4-year college or a 2-year college, or if you're taking a gap year and going to college later on, all of this information will be relevant to you. So we're just going to show you the process that it takes to apply to a local, private, or public college or state college. So we're just going to take you through the steps that you guys usually would have to take in order to do a common application or application from the university itself.
And as we go, put questions in the chat. We'll try to answer them as we go, and we'll be able to answer more at the end. So definitely put questions that you have into the chat.
Mm-hmm. And what's cool, if you guys have any questions that aren't what we're talking about exactly on the slide, you can just pop those in the chat. We do have advisors that can reply to those type of questions. But if the questions do relate to what we're talking about in the slides, one of our advisors will read that out for us and we'll try to answer that for you. If we don't have the information on hand, one of our advisors will look up, so we make sure you guys get the most relevant, correct information possible. You guys are lucky to have a lot of advisors on this call. So this is great that you guys use this resource. So I want to thank you guys for showing up today. You didn't have to, but you did. So we're going to get started. Let's see.
So the different parts of the college application, there's several parts. Grades is one of the most important things that the colleges will look from your transcript. Test scores, it's mostly optional this year, and we'll talk more about that as we go. The activity section, and I talk about courses again, courses and the grades. You're going to actually, on the Common App, you're going to type in all the courses you took, what year and so on, and the grades that you got, your recommendations from your teachers, and your essay.
Mm-hmm. And what I want to do, I want to add this year, actually on the Common Application, they actually took out the part that you have to put in all grades. You now only have to put in your senior grades of what you're taking now. So that's a good thing. Last year, we did have to plug in every single grade from 9th grade all the way to 12th. So you would have to go back on your transcript. But this year, they made it a little easier for you guys. So you just have to put in the 12th grade classes that you're currently taking, and then they're going to take a look at your transcripts when you send them over. So we'll talk about grades, the most important part of the college essay. So I know a lot of kids ask, like, what's a good GPA versus what's a bad GPA? How much GPAs do the colleges look at? What you want to do is you want to look at the college that you're applying to. Most colleges will give an average GPA of what they admit. So you want to see if you fall around that ballpark. If not, this is the time that you want to try to increase some kind of like extracurriculars, community volunteerism, that kind of stuff, just to put you guys on the map if you know your grades aren't up to par at the time. For the most part, they're going to take your grades from 9th to 11th grade. So if you guys were with Gear Up, we do give you guys that kind of information when you're in 11th grade to make sure you finish strong. And with that being said, when you're a senior, what they're working with is the 11th grade, your last marking term, with your GPA, which is current. And then they look at that first semester of your senior year. So that's as much as you can clean up for the time being. That doesn't mean to stop trying once your senior year. That just means that what they have for information, the transcripts that you are sending, is only going to be the transcripts from the past year. So that's the GPA that you're looking at, and that's the GPA that we're going to be working with, depending on when you submit your college application. Your guidance counselors will give you your copy of your transcript. The colleges do ask that they send it over to them directly. So it's not like you can just email them your transcript. It has to be directly from guidance so that they make sure that it's legitimate.
And going back to what Steve was saying about your grades, they're looking at that 11th grade year as the last really great, the last current grades that you would have, but your senior year is exceptionally important. When they do accept you, your acceptance is going to be contingent upon passing all your grades this year and graduating. I'll tell a story. When I was a senior, there was a student and was taking AP English with him, and he got accepted to Yale. But then after he got accepted to Yale, he stopped really doing the work for AP English. He didn't pass that class, he didn't graduate, and he didn't go to Yale. So make sure your senior year really matters. So keep on working on your courses.
Exactly. So as I was saying, I'll let Rachelle go into this, but I just want to remind you guys with the GPA is big. It's not everything. So with the college application that you guys are applying to, is putting all of your skill sets together, all of your involvement in the school. So another involvement that you can help with your college application is if you're part of activities.
So activities like right now, you might not be able to do a lot of activities because of the situation we're in. But if you were in activities from 9th grade all the way to 11th grade, I'll give you an example. I actually have a mother of a senior, and he's been in band since 7th grade. Right now, they're not really doing much for band. They're doing a little bit of virtual, but they're not doing the same program they did. But he's still going to put that he's involved in band this year because he would be involved. He'd be at every high school football game playing the saxophone and whatnot had we not been in this situation where we're in this pandemic. So if you were involved in chorus from 9th grade until 11th grade and you were planning on being involved in chorus, then make sure to put that on your transcript. Now in the activity section in the Common App, it's 140 characters, just like the Twitter used to be 140 characters. It's not a lot of space, but use it wisely. If you want the things that you are most important to you, put that first, because the college admissions rep don't always get to page 2. So if you've been doing something for the last 4 years and that's the most important thing that you want them to read, that should be the first thing you put on your application. Make sure that it's all proper spelling. Use Grammarly. I love that. And that will actually check your spelling right in the Common App and check your grammar. Yeah, I'm not sure if I missed anything. So, and if you didn't do a lot of activities because you had to take care of a brother or sister or something like that, that is an activity that you can put in as well, because that's something that it's still part, it basically this lets them see some part of you and get to know you as a person outside of your classes.
Mm-hmm.
And work too. I don't know, Steve, if I missed anything.
Yeah, work's a good one. So if you're working, make sure you let them know that you were employed for how many years, if it was just for the summer, if it was for the school year, because then that'll take into account if you're doing great with your GPA, that you balance work life and academic life, or if you struggled a bit, they'll understand that, okay, it's during COVID, you were working and keeping up your studies. So that's something that helps them because you got to think about it, you're on paper. So it's not like they get to see your personality. So you have to make your personality and your work ethic show in your in your college application. So we'll go into essays, which is a personal statement, and I'll let Rachelle do this one as well.
This one is like pretty much the second most important part of your application, and even more so this year where SATs, a lot of students are not going to have an SAT or an ACT because they didn't get a chance to take it. So they're going to look at the essay even more than they have before. And this is where you really get to tell them something about yourself. They want to get to know you as a person. Your grades are one thing, but they want to hear your voice. So basically, you should try to find something that is a meaningful experience, something that inspired you. Here, you don't really want to write about COVID. The Common App has a section, a 250-word section that you can write if there's some sort of way that COVID has affected your family, affected your life. That's the place to write about COVID. The college reps, the college admission reps are people, they are going through everything, but that's where you want to write about COVID, is in that COVID section. Here's when you want to write about some sort of thing that has inspired you, some sort of thing that has been a meaningful experience. Yeah, and there are also supplemental essays that you may have to do, like if you're applying to some different colleges like Northeastern or some sort of, they might have extra ones. So you want to look at that. Now, if the supplemental says, why do you want to go here? Do not cut and paste your answer for Framingham State and put that in for UMass Amherst, because basically you should have gone on and gone beyond the first page of the college website and really try to find, is there a certain professor at that college? Is there a certain, particular major there, or something that you've actually done some work and you went beyond that first page of the website to say why you want to go there? I know if Steve, you want to if you have anything else to add, or we can move on.
What I usually tell my kids with essays pertaining to scholarships or Common Apps or any type of essay, when you read it, you want to make sure these admission counselors are reading a lot of essays. So it's not like you're the only essay that they're reading. So you want to make sure it's interesting. You want to make sure if you were sitting there reading 5 to 10 essays every hour, that you're going to sit and read that essay. You don't want to talk about something generic. You don't want to talk about something that doesn't pertain to you, because you got to think these are human beings. They're taking the time out of their day to read your essay. So you got to make sure that your essay stands out beyond others. So you want to talk about, like Rachelle was saying, something relevant that makes you stand out so that they see your personality through that paper. So that's the thing. I always have someone read it, multiple people read it, not just your English teacher, not just your history teacher. And I see there's a hand raised. So if you type in your question, you can, and we'll get to it. But just for that essay, you just want to make sure you have other people read it. You can have your mom read it. You can have one of us read it. Just put more eyes on it so that we can give you guys our input. Because like Rachelle said, this is just another important part to showcase yourself.
And before we move on, I put in a little thing on Instagram, this college essay guy. He has a lot of really good tips that you can follow him if you on supplemental essays or just the regular essay. So you can look for him on Instagram and find some good information. We're also a good resource, your Gear Up or your Talent Search folks too, as far as extra people to look at your essay. And a thing that I always do is I will take my essay and I'll read the last sentence and then the next to last sentence and the next to last sentence, because in that way, you're gonna find some errors or you're gonna find some things that you wouldn't see if you read it from the top down. So I would always say that. And then another thing is just that first sentence or that first paragraph, make sure it kind of pulls somebody in, just like Steve says. You want to you want that first sentence, that first paragraph, to make that college admission rep want to read the rest, to kind of like, they call it the hook. What's going to interest them and want to read the rest of your essay.
I have a question from Francine, and she just wants to know an example for good topics regarding the essay.
Great question. So on the Common App, there's a couple questions. I can't remember them off the top of my head. There's about maybe 6 prompts, 5 prompts that you can choose from to get your juices flowing. So you can read those. And then they also have one that is a topic of your choice. So I can't really say the best topic to choose because everyone is different. Some people talk about if their family immigrated overseas and they're getting an education here. Some people talk about the struggles that they did. So if they know their grades aren't that great, but it was because they were working or they had to take care of their family, sometimes they write the essay surrounding that. Because what you are is trying to explain and show yourself on paper, as we keep saying. So it really is up to you. You can access what you can put a whole bunch of brainstorm, like I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. I've had some seniors come in and talk about just music, how that makes them feel. But it really didn't showcase them. It just showcased music. So you want to make sure that you do have other people talk about and read what you're doing, because you don't want to showcase a whole page of something and it doesn't. I don't understand who you are as a person because you went a different route. So brainstorm some ideas. Let us know if you need help picking and choosing. See which idea showcases you more, and then that would work.
I want to jump in here, if I may, because I've been reading a lot over this pandemic about college essays and what college reps are looking for. And the number one thing that I'm seeing when I'm reading these articles is that they're looking for personal growth. So they're looking to learn and understand something about you that they couldn't necessarily learn just by looking at your transcripts or even your extracurricular activities. And they want to see that personal growth that you've experienced. So you can write about how your grandmother helped you grow, but don't make the essay about your grandmother. You want to make it about the lessons that you learned and how you changed and became maybe a better person because of it. Or another example, when my son was writing an essay, he was a Boy Scout and they went on this very, very long trek in Philmont. It was a 100-mile trek. And so the college reps don't want to read about that whole trek from start to finish. What they could learn from it is if he picked something really significant that happened and focused in on that one day or that 1 hour and wrote about what happened, how he felt what he learned from that experience and how it's made him mature. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, that's
Any
actually, I
other-
was going
I
to
know-
touch upon that too and say the same thing. If it was somebody that inspired you, don't make it about them. You know, you could write about your uncle or write about your grandmother, but then bring it back to you and how did they inspire you and how did that, you know, how did that help you grow as a person? So thank you, Taryn, for that. That was awesome.
I heard Jackie, you had another question?
No, I was just saying, like, for me, when I was writing my college essay, I wrote, you know, coming here from a different country and how it was a culture shock and how I didn't really speak English very well and what I did to like perfect my English. So that was like my topic that I did.
That's a good one. And, you know, a lot of students that are coming here from another country, you have now a lot of different things that you could put into that essay if that's what you chose to
Mhm.
write about.
Okay, moving on. All right, so testing. SATs are optional this year. For the most part, I think majority of every single college is not requiring them because they know how hard it is to get to a testing site. They know how hard it is to try to schedule a testing site, and a lot of places aren't even offering SATs at the time. The reason why we want to let you guys know that it is optional, even though you don't have to worry about it, is because if you do find that someone is offering it and you really want to take those SATs just to add something to your college application, if you're able to do so, definitely do it if you have the means to. But we want you guys not to stress out too much about it because a lot of the colleges aren't worrying about that. What the SATs does, just like the essay, just like your transcript, it just helps your application better understand your academics, better understanding if you're good at test taking, what subjects you're good at. Same thing with the ACTs. So that just tries to help you guys bulk up your application if needed. But we all know we're in a pandemic right now, so colleges are very understanding of that. So I know North High is offering SATs, which was a very limited amount of spots on Tuesday. So good luck to everyone taking that. But that's just another option that you guys did have at the time. If it does open up again, we'll let you guys know if they're doing other testing. But for now, if you weren't able to do it Tuesday, tomorrow, that's cool. Just work on your studies, work on your GPA, work on your college essay. That just gives you a little more time to do that. Do you have anything to add?
That's
Rachelle?
basically the same thing. As a mother of a senior, my son was studying all summer and his SATs kept on getting canceled. So I told him, you know, not to just not worry about it, but maybe to focus on your essay, focus on other things you can control because you can't control whether or not there's going to be an SAT. So basically, a lot of students I know haven't been able to access taking the test, and I would spend more time on your essay and the parts of the application you can control. Take the SAT if you can. If you get a really good score, submit it. But if you are not able to take it, then don't worry about this. You can just focus on the other parts of your application.
Mhm. Any questions about SATs while we're on it?
Not yet from Jamal, so he's still thinking.
Okay.
Any questions before we move on for everything else that we talked about? And if you have questions, don't forget, just punch them into the chat box and we'll get to them at the end, just in case we don't want you guys to forget them. Because right now you have a bunch of great advisors that can help you out. So this is the time to use us. So college applications, we have the Common App versus college's own application. So definitely when you're looking up colleges and you're looking up which ones you want to go to, you want to see if they take the Common App versus if you have to fill out their application on their own. I know for a fact that Worcester State is not on the Common App. They have their own application that you have to take. So you want to check in on that. Common App really goes across the board. Most schools do use it. So that's the good part of that. And for kids that don't know what the Common App is, it's just an application that you fill out from start to finish. You have to get check marks in each section to say that it's filled out. So it just goes over your entire profile. So it goes over your name, your siblings, financial aid, not financial aid, your college essay you put in there, you put in your transcripts, you put in your recommendation letters, all of that goes into one application. And then you're able to shoot that application to the schools that accept the Common App. And then on the other part is the college's applications that you have to do it on your own. So if they don't accept the Common App, you now have to go to that university's website and fill out a separate one. So if there's a lot of colleges on your list that does that, make sure you set up a time to do that. It's not like you can just sit and shoot them all out at once. That's the time that you have to sit and fill out an application for that particular school and then do it for another school and so on and so forth. So Common App versus college's own application, that's how that works. Common App is a great tool to use. I would say even if you have one school that you're looking at, just fill out that Common App because you never know what school you might want to apply to later on. I think there's a question.
I would also mention, because I have a lot of students will start filling out the Common App, and then I find out they're only applying to Worcester State and Quincy, which is not necessary at all to do the Common App. While it's a great tool to apply to a bunch of colleges at once, if you fill it out, and it's very time consuming, if you fill out the whole thing and you're not going to apply to any of the colleges on Common App, then you're kind of wasting time. So I agree with Steve, it's a great tool. If you're applying to a bunch of the schools that are on there, it makes it easier. But just you want to make sure to look at and see, is there any of the schools that you have on your list on there? So if there aren't any that are on there, then maybe don't do that until you have one of those schools on the list. Know if that made sense?
Okay, we have a question. Someone said, when do I send the application? Do I send it via email or mail?
So what's cool with the Common App and all applications and the technology world we live in now, once you fill out the application, it just submits it right over. So it's not like you have to go download it and attach it to a file and send it over. As long as the Common Application is filled to the T, so that means every tab is checked and you have your recommendations in there and you have your college essay in there. It won't let you submit it if you don't. The thing about the Common App is when you are applying to different schools, there's going to be different colleges that require different questions. So say if I applied to UMass Amherst and I did the whole Common App, all my boxes are checked. But once I click UMass Amherst, send it to that, it'll pop up and it'll say UMass Amherst has 2 more questions that you need to answer. So UMass Amherst might want to know, how did COVID affect you? But they want it in a personal essay type of thing, like that's like 250 characters or something like that. This is just me throwing out a random one. It might not be on UMass Amherst, but you want to make sure that when you are applying to different schools, there's always going to be sometimes some questions. It might just be a multiple choice type of thing. It all depends on the college. So once you finish your Common App or any other application, you literally, it's always a button that just says submit. And just make sure you let your guidance counselors know where to send your transcript. So if you're applying to a few schools, make sure you have your list ready so that your guidance counselors know. I know at North, we attach it to Naviance. So when you attach your Common App to Naviance, it'll let your counselors know actually what school you applied to, and they'll send it over itself. So if you guys need help setting that up, let one of your advisors know or your guidance counselor, but that's super easy. So you don't have to worry about emailing. You don't have to worry about mailing. That's a thing in the past. Now it's just a simple button.
And one little tip about Common App.
Yeah.
We had a student whose Common App wouldn't submit, and it took us days and days and days to figure out why. And it was because she had gone over the word limit in the essay, and Common App didn't tell her that she went over the word limit. But when we finally figured out that she did and edited and took those words out, it submitted. So pay attention to what they're asking for and don't go over so that doesn't happen to you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions for Common App right now, or essays or anything else?
Not right now. I don't have any questions.
I think in a couple of weeks, we're going to have another presentation that's going to go in more detail about Common App. So be watching for that particular webinar. You'll be able to go more in depth in Common App. Demonstrated interest. Basically, that's how the college determines that you're interested. I have one of the guidance counselors told me a story when he worked at another school, and a student was applying to Harvard. She had the highest GPA. She was a valedictorian. She had all these activities. There was no reason why, in his mind, that she shouldn't have been a great candidate for Harvard. She didn't actually get in, and he actually contacted, as a guidance counselor, guidance counselors can call up the admissions and say, why wasn't this student admitted? They sometimes will tell the guidance counselor with the understanding that that guidance counselor is not going to tell the student. So the bottom line was that that student had not set foot on Harvard, had not emailed Harvard, had not called Harvard. Now, right now, you can't really go on college tours in person, but you can do virtual tours, and we offer a lot of virtual tours, a virtual college info sessions / tours on Thursdays and Fridays, as well as you can go right to their websites and sign up for ones if there's like one that you're interested in going on that we're not offering. During the summer, that's what I had my son do. He was applying to 10 colleges, and I said, you need to go on virtual tours for every single one of these. And he did that. He signed up for every single one of the ones he was going to apply to, because there was no way for us to actually go on in-person tours. Another way to show interest is by emailing the admissions rep, asking them a question, following them on their social media and such. I don't know, Steve, if you want to add anything to this.
Yep, I will add, just the way that the world is now, we're super social, we're super on computers, we're emailing, texting. A lot of my peers are actually admission counselors now. So what they have told me is they do think about when kids are reaching out to them, because then even though they don't see your face, when they see your name, the more they see your name, the more they feel like they know you. So the more that they want to work with you, the more that they want to get you in. Say there's a reason why you can't get in, or financial aid's an issue, they'll go that extra mile because they feel that they've built that relationship with you, rather than you just sending your application and hoping for the best. So sometimes I tell some of my students, once you send it, you can send over, if you're really interested in the college, like you really want to go to this particular college, you could always email a rep, go on their website. It shows all the staff. You can pick what staff you might feel you relate to more. And just email them and say, I'm interested. If you have any more information that I can get, or any information I can send you guys, that'd be awesome. I know some schools have systems in place that when you do email them, that your name goes into a database, so that they see how many times you've contacted that school, and they'll reach out to you, because admission counselors also need to recruit. So it's a lot easier to recruit with kids that want to be recruited. So you want to put your name out there, make sure, especially if it's a school that you want to go to, make sure that one of the admissions counselors at least knows your name and you know their name. Was there questions? I see stuff popping up, so I'm not sure if those are questions or not.
It just on some comments.
Okay.
How many colleges am I allowed to apply to?
Now,
All right.
okay, you can apply to, so like I would suggest not any more than like 5 to 8. On Common App, the maximum is 20, apparently. I looked that up. I've heard of students applying to way more than that, but I'll tell you, when I worked with students here at North that applied for more than 10, they regretted it later, because there's all kinds of extra things you have to do after. It might seem easy to check a box, but then you have extra things. When you're applying to ones on Common App, you might be having to write extra essays. After they contact you, after you submit it, oh, write this essay to be considered for this scholarship. So there's all this extra stuff that comes after.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really suggest like 5 to 8. My son personally had 20, and I told him he had to bring that down to 5 to 8. We agreed on 10. That's what he's applying to. But I think that's a reasonable amount.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, with applying to a lot, are you applying to a lot just to apply to a lot, or are you applying to a lot because you want to go to those schools? Because I find that with the Common App, how easy it is. I know I was telling you guys, just hit submit. Some students are like, oh, that was easy, so let me just shoot 20 applications to all the schools across America, even though I know I'm not interested in half of those. So just think about that, because like Rachelle said, those schools are now going to start contacting you, and those schools that you are worried about, you're going to start overstressing, because you're like, oh, this school needs this school needs this, you need recommendations for this, I need to send my transcript here, and then you end up going to the top 3 schools that you knew you were going to go to before you applied to those 20. So you just want to make sure that's more work on your plate. Like Rachelle said, it's super easy applying now, so a lot of kids are going that 10 to 20 route because they're like, why not? But this is why not. It's just pick your schools that you really want to go to. Yes, you can apply to as many as you want, but do you really want to apply to 20 schools? If there's 20 schools on your list that you can't cut down to 5, then go for it. But just be prepared when those 20 schools are asking for more information.
And I think sometimes we'll recommend that that our students apply to, and Taryn, maybe you can pop in on this one. You know, a reach school, a safety school, and when you're coming up with your list, you want that reach school, the one that's going to be like a little bit out of reach, your safety school, the one that you're sure that you're going to get into, and then Yeah.
I know there's one in the middle, but really it
Right in
is
the
all
middle, but
about reach and
basically, like,
safety. And
safety.
honestly, yeah, if you're doing your homework and you have some reaches, but you have also the safeties, there isn't a reason to have 10 or 20, 25 applications. It's a lot of work and you'll be very overwhelmed. And all of our students that have done 20 have really quite regretted it at the end because it really put a lot of undue stress on them.
Yeah, and a thing that I'll say, if you do these virtual tours, which is the thing that my son did, you'll find that you will cross off some. You're like, you know what, I really am not interested. So that's why I would suggest everyone that you have, if you have 20 on your list and you think you're going to go to all those 20, well, then I'll challenge you to do a virtual tour for each of those and really decide, is it something that really should still be on your list, and have a good reason for why it should still be on there. That's how we got down to the 10 that he's applying to.
Any other questions for those? All right, recommendations I won't spend too much time on because every school does it differently. The way that North does it is through Naviance, which is pretty cool that Naviance and Common App talk to each other. You fill out your senior questionnaire, and then that gets shot over to your guidance counselors that will look over your questionnaire and write a recommendation for you. So that's how North does it. So other schools, if you're on this call, you want to make sure you reach out to guidance or your advisors and see how the best way to go about it. You do want at least 2 recommendation letters. I do want to say, with everything that we're saying, you still want to look up the school that you're applying to, because some schools are recommendation optional. There's not a lot of those, but you always just want to check what the school needs. Some schools might need 2, some schools might need 1, some schools might not need any. So you just want to double check. All schools are not the same. So don't go in thinking like, oh, this school asked for this, so this must be the 20 schools acting for the same thing. And that goes back to applying to so many schools, because then if you're applying to those, there's going to be different things that they want from you. So you just want to make sure you're prepared for that. Does anybody have? Yep, go ahead.
Oh, I would say make sure to ask 11th grade teachers if at all possible, because they know you better. Again, look, because I know one school that my son is applying to, he needs a science, a math, and a humanities teacher. Most schools just need 2. If they are asking for just 2, they mean just 2. They don't want you to do 3 or 4 because they don't have time to read that. Remember, they're reading, I don't know how many thousands of applications. They don't have time to read extra recommendations. So don't go beyond that. They might have an optional outside, like an optional recommendation that could be somebody outside of school. It could be a coach or a boss. If that's the case, you might do that because that will give another look. But if they only want 2 from 2 teacher ones, don't send them 3.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just a quick little tip that I learned when I was in high school is when I was trying to find who to ask for recommendation, I found someone who, like a teacher who actually liked me, someone that like can actually write me a good recommendation. Don't just go to a teacher that you know, like you're not paying attention in her class, you're not doing well. Don't ask that teacher, like, because they're not gonna write you a good recommendation. So find someone, or a counselor, a principal, or someone that actually care about you. They want to see you grow. They want to see you go to college, and they'll do a good recommendation for you.
That's a good point, Jackie. I was actually watching another webinar where they had some, they basically said, ask that teacher, can you write me a good recommendation? You know, can you honestly write me a good recommendation? Because if you're somebody that's not, you know, paying attention, or that teacher doesn't, if you don't have a good rapport with that teacher, that might not be the right person to ask. So that's a good point, Jackie. Thank you.
And I do want to add with recommendations, along with what Jackie said, don't ask the teacher last minute either. No teacher wants to be put on the spot that now your college application's due tomorrow and you waited till now to ask for a recommendation. Same thing with scholarships. Scholarships don't play around with deadlines, neither do colleges. So if you already have a list of colleges that the deadline is a certain day, you're doing early action, you're doing early decision, then you have to be proactive to seeing recommenders, and then make sure you have a couple, because you might have 2, and then you might reach out to that one, and I might be super busy that they're not able to do so. So have some backup people that can recommend you, and don't wait till the last minute. So if you're thinking about it right now in your head, then that's when you should shoot an email. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about applying to a couple schools. Can I count you in for being one of my recommenders? So that's something that you guys should be proactive with. I've been in situations where kids are applying for scholarships and they waited to the last minute, and then they shoot me a text like, can you write? And I don't have time to just sit and write an essay because it's due in 2 hours and they're running out of options. So you guys need to be accountable and responsible for that. You guys have plenty of time to reach out. You have plenty of teachers, hopefully, that you have good rapport with. And then you have guidance counselors as well.
And if
And
anybody,
also one last thing, sorry. Once you ask the teacher, like after that, just write them like a thank you note or like just something to appreciate them taking their time to do this for you. And also like they'll keep that, like they'll be with you for like, because for me, I still have teachers from high school that still check up on me from the effort that I put in and the relationship that I built with them. So just don't forget that little thank you note to give them after.
that's a good point. And I would also add, if anybody was thinking of applying early action, I hope that you had already asked your teachers way ahead of time and told your guidance counselors, because early action at some schools is coming up November 1st or November 15th. So you would have had to been working with your teachers, sending in those requests. Otherwise, if you just think you're going to apply early action, but you didn't tell your guidance counselor, then you're not applying early action. It takes time. You have to make sure everybody in your team knows that you're doing that.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. Transcript. I think for the most part, we've talked about this. This is something that at the end of the day, when you're done with your application, you want to let your guidance counselors know, I've applied to such and such school. Can you send over my transcripts? And then you'll have to do that at the end of the year, like Rachelle was saying. So if you thought like, oh, I sent in my transcript, I'm cool with that, my grades were decent, now I'm going to slack off, that you do have to at the end, if you do get accepted, or even if you don't get accepted, they might reach out and say, can you send your second quarter or your second semester or whatever transcript so that we can check on your grades. They might do it that way. So you always want to make sure you're ready for that.
So yeah, make sure when you're filling out that Common App to ask for your transcript, because it'll be very helpful to have it when you're filling out your senior grades. As I didn't know that my son is actually doing this, but he's doing it on his own. So I hadn't realized that they're not asking for the whole 4 years now. That's good to know. But ask for that and have that, because it'll make it much easier to do that. And you'll also have to put in things like your GPA, your weighted and your unweighted GPA, and your class rank. We have a question about application fees and how they'll be waived. Well, Worcester Public Schools, you guys are basically not going to have to pay application fees for the most part because of the fact that it's free and reduced lunch for Worcester Public Schools. So Common App applications, there's a place in there to answer that you qualify for, that your school qualifies for free or reduced lunch, and you would not have the fees, which is another reason why our students here will apply to those 20 schools, so they don't have to pay the fees. And then if you're applying to the state schools, there's waivers on the SATs. Now I know a lot of our students didn't take the SATs, so they wouldn't have those waivers, but we have other ways that we can help get those fees waived. A lot of schools, if you've done some of the virtual tours with the schools, they'll offer you to waive the fee as well.
We have one more question. Someone said, for every quarter, does my GPA increase?
It can increase, it could decrease, it could do whatever you're doing with your grades. So,
Yeah.
And at this
So you
point,
wanna make sure.
the change is going to be very slight because it's going after, it's like when you're in your senior year, what you're doing in your classes isn't going to affect your GPA as much. That's like who's a math person here, but basically your class that you took is a small portion of your GPA. So it's not really affecting it as much. Anybody else that's more of a math person can explain this better?
Well, I'll explain it like birthdays. You know, when you're 4 years old, your birthday, it's like 25% of your life, but as you take more classes, your average becomes larger. So your grades are going to, I'm not explaining this well at all. Somebody else.
I would say, if you guys just know how to do like mean, median, and average, that kind of thing. So right now your GPA is all of from 11th from 9th to 11th grade. So your GPA is a set from that. So now that we're adding a little bit of 12th grade, it won't change that much because we're only adding a piece of 12th grade into that GPA. So it won't like decrease too much or it won't increase too much because we've already done 3 years of a grade point average, which is the average grade that you've had in those last 3 years. And adding 1 quarter to that is not going to do a dramatic change unless you did a dramatic change in your like AP classes and your honors classes and you flunked every class. That might drop it pretty significantly.
Yeah. Even 1F is going to drop it significantly. But if you had like a B in the class and then you got an A in the class, it isn't really going to drive your GPA up that much. So, but you definitely want to stay away from those D's and F's because that will bring it down.
Absolutely.
Okay,
All right.
we have a follow-up question from Angel. So she said, do they want us to enter code or something, or do we use the SAT waiver for the application fees?
Okay, so there is a code on the SAT waivers that can be entered, but those are ones that if you ask us individually when you're applying, because they're harder to answer here, but they're definitely codes for the SATs. Usually you print out something actually and you either mail it or you scan it. But now with COVID, I think there's probably a way to just put that code in some way. I'm sure that they changed the process to make it easier because not everybody has access to be able to print things. But we can definitely answer those questions one-on-one. I'm sure that they're making it easier.
I think on the Common App, you can't quote me on this, but I believe on the Common App, when you fill out the part that Rachelle was saying that if you get free or reduced lunch, or if you're part of a TRIO program, which is like Year Up or Talent Search, you check off that box and then that will make you eligible for the waiver. And then once your guidance counselor sends over the transcript, should be all set. I don't think you have to do anything other than that with the Common App. For the other colleges that might get their personal applications, there might be a different process. So I can't really tell you how that would work. They might ask the same questions, like if you get free or reduced lunch, or if you at Worcester Public Schools, they usually waive all those. I'm not sure how other colleges will be doing it this year, but I'm sure you can reach out and check on that.
Steve, your volume just went down a little. I'm not
That
sure
was
what
the next
happened.
one.
I will tell you, Angel, the old school way that schools not on Common App were requiring it was to go into your College Board account and print out your fee waivers that you get from taking the test. I'm wondering, even though a lot of them are not taking it this year, if you got some from taking the test last year in school, and then you would take that fee waiver and you would mail it in directly to the school. However, as Steve said, things might be slightly different this year with COVID. So it's probably worth shooting an email to the admissions rep to see if they still want you to do it that way.
Were those all the questions? Can you guys hear me now?
It's your
That is
volume went down. I don't know if you could just project more. I'm not sure what happened.
We have a question from Jamal. He said, early action deadline is in November and December. And then she just want to confirm because he's checking on the senior class. Yeah.
So it depends on your college. I know that some of the ones that my son is applying to, it's November 1st, but I know some of the colleges have changed it to December. And I believe that there is, and I can share it later. I know there's some sort of website or some sort of place that they're keeping track of that, but I would check on the colleges that you're applying to, what the dates are. Some of them have changed them and they're putting them later because they know you guys haven't gotten to school right away and didn't have a chance to check in with your guidance counselors. So some of them are giving more time for early action, but other ones are not changing their dates.
And that's the tricky thing. You know, one date does not fit all. When you select your colleges that you're applying to, you really have to look at each and every one and make sure that you write down all of the dates. Take your earliest deadline and then try to get all those applications in on the earliest deadline.
Right, that's a good point. And I would like figure out what works for you, whether it's your Google Calendar, whether it's making a spreadsheet and trying to put all the stuff. But I like Taryn's point of just using the early. So if your earliest deadline is November 1st, then I would get everything done for all the colleges for November 1st. Or if it's November 15th, and some of them are December, but I would go by the earliest one and try to get everything done by that earliest one. That way you just have it done. And the benefit of that is that you got it done and you don't have to worry about it. Again, though, with the early action, like my son is considering doing early action, but he's like, I might not, because if you're rushing to get an early action and your essays are not there, or you feel like your application is rushed, then it's not really going to benefit you to do early action. So you have to really know if that's right for you. And even if you've gone and told your guidance counselor and asked your teachers and said, I'm doing early action, if you decide not to because you feel like you're not ready, that's okay too.
I'm going to play timekeeper here. I'm not sure how long we have until they go to the next class, but it is 11:04 now.
I know we went to 11:15 last time, and we're almost to the end of everything. And again, if the questions don't get answered, people can send them to us later. I think we talked about this, the GPA and the class rank that you'll need. You'll get it on your transcript, and you'll need that for filling out your applications.
Yeah. And then we did talk about this. You guys can hear
Right.
me now at a good volume?
It's better.
Or it's still okay.
Okay.
So
but
we've said this a few times. Just make sure that you don't get lazy. Once you apply, that does not mean it's done. Once you hit submit, that doesn't mean to go stop checking in with Zoom calls, stop doing grades. That just means you got the first step down, because colleges are going to be reaching out. Grades are still going to be happening. Life is still moving. Nothing stops because you hit submit. So just remember that. And make sure that you're passing your grades. If you guys still need academic support, let us know. Let your guidance counselors know. Let your teachers know. You don't want to be like Rachelle was saying in the beginning, think you got into a school and then you slack off, and then it's time and they say, oh, well, you sent in your transcripts, and seeing that you plummeted that much, we're not really ready to accept you due to that. And then that's when you got to go back and try to figure out your whole life because you got lazy. So we don't want you to do that. So stay on top of your grades. If your grades are not that great now, get on top of them now. You can always apply a little later once you get your second term in, so you can see what your grades look like if there's a deadline that's not soon. So if you're not doing early action and you're doing regular decision and you want to wait to see your first period grades, you can still do your Common App. Doesn't have to submit it, but do all that stuff. Wait for the grades to come in, because I think they come in pretty soon, and see if that helped, and then apply to schools. You can do that. But those are type of things that you need to come and talk to us about, just so we can help you advise what's your best route to do so. And I think that is this is more
this was just if you have any sort of activities that, like if you're an art student and stuff, that you might want to have like an online portfolio, you probably want to ask your art teacher or whatever teacher what they suggest. There is a section in the optional additional information in Common App which will take a URL. So if you have a portfolio, you could throw that into that optional information section. I was actually just on a call with the admissions rep that said that's an URL you can put in your portfolio. And then we're gonna just touch upon the sports. We might have another webinar on sports, but on sports, if you're interested in that, Division 1 and 2 are the only ones that receive scholarship money, but if you want to play sports in college, there's other ways to do that. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because, as you can see, I would be the one that would be getting hit in the head with the ball. So, but I believe we're going to offer a webinar probably after Thanksgiving on sports. We have two people that have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge on that, so we can move on.
I think we are good. I think this is just questions.
Any questions? If we don't have any questions, I have a poll that I can launch and we can try that out. I haven't done a poll before, but I got that in there. Let's see. I'm going to launch the poll anyway, and people can answer the first one, and they can throw some questions. Because let's see, allow all panelists. Okay. What if I was never really engaged in extracurriculars, but pretty good grades? Well, it's a good point. I mean, if you weren't involved in extracurriculars, that's okay. There might be something else like that you can write. I would say not to leave that section blank. Maybe there are other things you're interested. Maybe you were involved. Maybe you had a job, or maybe you had to babysit younger kids or something. Try to think about something. That's one thing I was told, try not to leave that activity section blank. So I would try to think about hobbies that you had, volunteer experiences that you might have had, if you could.
I think we can go on to the next.
All right,
poll.
I'm going to go on to the next one, and I'll share results, and I'm going to launch the next one. So this is the results of how many of you started your college essay, and it looks like a number you have, and some don't have a clue what to write about. Again, you could touch base with one of us or your guidance counselor and such for that. I'm going to go on to the next question on my, let's see, stop sharing, yes. Let's see, I pressed the wrong button. Got to close that one.
Any other questions while we're doing this? Because we're running low on time, so we want to make sure we answer any questions while you guys have us. There's about 6 advisors on the call, so you can access any questions you guys got now.
And I'm throwing out the next one. How many people have started their Common App?
Jamal just asked, how are you guys doing? Well, I'm doing well. And
Fantastic, and thank you for asking.
Thank you, thank you. I was a little bit herring day. My daughter actually started hybrid and she missed the bus, but I got here on time, so that was a good thing. So thanks for asking, Jamal. Yeah. So Common App, it looks like some of you have started, some haven't, and maybe you haven't started because your college isn't on it or you're not sure where you're playing. But anyway, just wanted to get a feel of who was starting the Common App.
And I think most of you guys are North students. So if you are a North student, all of the advisors on the call right now, I believe, are North advisors. So you can reach out to any one of us via email, via text, via call, whatever you guys need. I have worked with a few kids doing their Common App, so they just share their screen and we just walk through it. So if you guys need help with that, same thing with college essays. If you want to share a screen and then we go through your college essay, you share the Google Doc with me or one of the advisors and we can edit together. Those are some quick ways to do some stuff. So that's a resource that you do have. You can let your friends know that we are a resource for you guys.
And I have to say this really quick before people go. If your schools are not on Common App, you don't have to put yourself through the Common App. So for example, if you're only applying to QCC and Worcester State, there's no reason for you to do Common App unless you think that you're going to add schools that are on it. But if you know for sure that they're not, then you're just focusing on the applications from those schools.
Right. And I thank you for sharing that. That's a good point. I'm going to, so we see this, I'm going to try to share one more. We're running out of time though, so.
Yeah, and we appreciate you guys coming just in case you guys got to jump out. And I know you guys got classes. We appreciate your time. We know this is a break between classes, so you don't have to be here, but we appreciate that you take the time out of your day to be proactive and productive and figure this out, because we're not in school, so there's not a chance that you could just walk into our office or walk into Miss Becker's office or anybody's office and just ask a question. This is a little harder. So we try to do this every Monday, so you have at least some kind of option to reach out to some kind of.
Please share with your fellow students this as well, because we're trying to reach more students. So if you like this, please let them know. We have a YouTube channel that we started to put our webinars on, and please share that as well.
I think Jackie was saying something too.
Just saying, just utilize the Google Classroom, so like you can type in your questions through there as well, because we check that classroom almost every single day. So definitely use us, make us work.
Okay.
So that'll be the last question. You can see the recommendation. Some of you have asked, some of you haven't. So think about that and hope that you've enjoyed this webinar and learned something from it.
All right, guys.
See everybody next week.
Yeah,
time, same place.
Stay tuned. Make sure to check us out next week. we'll be talking about FSA IDs and the FAFSA. Ms. Tompkins.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
So my crew, hang on the line
Yes.
while we say goodbye to everybody else. And we could probably stop recording.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording here.